Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today's date is November 4th, 2021, and we are a couple days away from our kickoff with Nebraska. It'll be a noon game in Lincoln. So back on the noon circuit after back-to-back night games, but it's all right. This is kind of a week I kind of feel like watching an earlier game because sometimes those night games, especially being under the weather a little bit, those night games can take a little bit out of you, especially when you want to go to your adrenaline's up so much, but you also kind of want to go to bed. So it's been so it'd be nice maybe to get a early one out of the way on Saturday.
I have trouble pacing myself with the beverages when they're night games because I don't start early enough and then I just consume too much in one sitting. It just at one time. Whereas I'm better suited when I can start at noon and I can, work myself slowly throughout the day. So that's where my issue comes in with the night games, and especially when they're like high emotion ones like last weekend that it really, it took a while before the game was actually in hand and over with that, that the emotions, the drama gets to you.
When you get in those nail biters, at least for me, as of course, anybody who knows me, I pace a lot. So they tend to be much more pacing games when games like that. The week before in Indiana, I don't know if I left the couch once tonight. I'm outside of going to the bathroom and stuff like that, but and getting up for drinks. But last week it's like just constantly up and walking and
Indiana was great. He's just like, oh, this is easy. Let me go get another beer. Oh, let me get on Twitter. Oh, Cincinnati, you guys suck. You only beat these guys by how many? And so this game was quite different this past weekend.
All right. So we're going to start off tonight with we had a commitment today, 2023 kid, Josh Padilla out of the Dayton area. So offensive guard. He's 4-star. So got a lineman, not for this upcoming class, but the following class. So that's good. He seems like he's from just some of the stuff I read. I haven't got to really look at any of his highlights, stuff like that. But I did read a couple things about him on just through Twitter and stuff like that. Just some people. It seems like it's a good pickup, and it'll be nice to see him when he finally gets here in a year.
Yeah, my opinion on lineman recruiting for Ohio State is every class should start off with, and I know like things change, you different evaluations change throughout a cycle, but your top interior lineman in the state of Ohio and your top tackle that you would project could start for you, they should be verbal commitments to Ohio State long before, that cycle happens.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that.
You got to keep those top linemen in state.
If it's somebody that's top level or higher, kid, you want them to begin with. There's no place when they're Ohio kids, and I kind of feel the same way with skill positions. And I know some, you get some skill positions where it can go kind of like maybe a little longer and stuff like that. But you get the Jack Sawyers of the world, this kid, even I believe going all the way back to Beanie, I'm pretty sure Beanie was the first kid in that class. When you got a top kid in your state or a high level kid in your state that you really want, just go get him. Just don't let the games be played around with them. And I know technically his signature's not on paper yet, but get him committed and then get him in there to help with recruiting and stuff like that. So if they wanted him, then it's better to get him now than letting other teams get in on him and maybe him looking around and thinking that his home state school doesn't want him.
Absolutely. So big. I mean, I like it. It was a 4-star right for 23. So good get for stud. Again, keep those kids in state and just keep building on the class. So hopefully, though, I'm hoping he can get a couple more kids for the 22 class. It doesn't have to be reaches or projects. Like I would love to see one of these, tackles that are still kind of out there just commit. And I know you might have a lot of ground to make up right now, but it would be so huge for the 22 class, especially, offensive linemen, if they could land one of those guys.
Yeah, especially I think we're gonna probably need to. Probably need to land somebody, or maybe look into the transfer portal and see what big names are out there. Just because, I mean, we'll see we'll see when it happens. But I mean, the way DeJuan's playing this year, he might stay, but I mean, I'm going to hold it still at 50-50 right now. I think he's doing enough to possibly get drafted, and so that has to kind of be in the back of the Ohio State's coach's thought, their mind here, that he could leave, so we could actually be dropping a more offensive lineman than we think. And, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with possibly Matt Jones or Harry Miller, just because Harry hasn't really played much. Matt Jones, is he okay with the fact that he's not been playing as much? I mean, he can become a big time player somewhere.
Does he have to stay? I mean, that guy's gotten, he's done the most of a lot of his opportunities. I mean, I think he would stay just because he hasn't played enough meaningful football. But when he has been in there during meaningful snaps, he plays very well.
I don't think he would leave in the draft, but I could. There's always a possibility in the transfer portal.
Yeah, but I think that would all be that he couldn't project to play next year. And I don't think that would be a situation with losing three linemen.
I think he's going to be the starter next year because, Paris is already moving out to a tackle spot. And, there's a possibility that we're going to have another tackle spot open. 3 of your 4 tackles that are on this team could very easily be gone. So, with the way DeJuan's been playing. So, I mean, and honestly, if Paris was eligible to leave, I would say that could be a threat too, but at least he's not eligible to leave.
Yeah, and he does need the year, at tackle.
He wants to play tackle, and he wants to go to the next level and play tackle, so he will have to play tackle. But so I mean, that's just kind of a thing that 2022. I wouldn't mind seeing them go get another offensive lineman for 2022, and then possibly, if they have room, pick up one in the transfer portal that's a high projection kid, and the way transfer portals are now, you'll find one. There'll be ones out there that are, 5-star, 4-star kids. So go get them, and because you might need, because we could be in a position where that's a little bit questionable for next year.
DeJuan, I think for DeJuan to stay, he really, when he's playing these better defenses down the stretch, he kind of has to be a little bit exposed at this point. And I mean, the guy's a mountain that moves like he's, 40 pounds lighter than what he is. So I don't know. I mean, I think DeJuan really is the real deal. He's strong. He can run block. He's one of the best run blocking tackles in the country. And the guy's he is so hard to get around on pass rush.
I thought he actually held up the best this past weekend against Penn State. I think.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, even though Stroud was upright for most of the game, but it seemed like the pressure that they did get kind of more from MPF and Munford than it did from DeJuan. So I think he just keeps on looking good. So it's just something you got to keep in the back of your head if I'm the coaches that we might be down another lineman that we never thought we would be.
Right.
All right. So Nebraska.
3-6 Nebraska.
Yeah. Offensively, I'm not worried about them. I think our defense is going to match up fine against them. I mean, I think that they've kind of found maybe a little bit of themselves a little bit over the last month, that they're more of a running. They're at least trying to be more of a running team, but I think this is just, to me, it's just kind of the way they've been over the last several years. If you get them in a hole, they're not really dangerous anymore. I mean, I'm not Adrian Martinez. You're not scared of his arm. He's going to put the ball on the ground. He's going to throw interceptions. he's not overly accurate with his throws. That I just think that as long as you can get in front of them by a couple scores, they kind of fall apart. And I don't think that's going to be much of a difference. Like, I don't see, there's not a lot offensively that I'm really nervous about when playing them. I think that Ohio State's defense sets up fine against them.
So the interesting thing about that, though, is out of their 6 losses, do you know what's the most amount of points you think they've lost by?
I don't think they've two scores, maybe
8 points.
Yeah.
And that was that was the first game to Nebraska. So they keep Illinois. They keep games close, but I mean, a lot of these teams that we've seen really don't have the most explosive of offenses. And yes, I'm including Oklahoma as well, because they've been, Jekyll and Hyde this year. So I don't, give them the benefit of being an explosive offense. They scored 23 on Nebraska. Michigan scored 32. That's the high point total against Nebraska for this year. I don't know. I don't see, and I know they only scored 33 against Penn State, but I just don't think Nebraska is going to keep Ohio State to 32 or less. So, and I think Ohio State, I don't think Nebraska's offense is good enough to really stress Ohio State, but I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I'm not really Nebraska. I mean, I get it. They keep games close. Their defense is going to be good. And we'll talk about their defense here in a minute, because I'm a little bit more, I shouldn't say concerned, because I think our offense will do fine against our defense. It's just after last week, playing a better defense. And I definitely think Nebraska is not necessarily Penn State level defense, but that's been the one really bright spot throughout most of the year for them.
They're good against the run. They only give up 137 a game.
I think that Ohio State's going to have to really grind out some points and yards offensively at different points in this game on Saturday. But I think that they'll be they're going to be fine on that. It's just, but again, like I just saying, they're off. Nebraska's offense just does not worry me. I get it. They can score. They can, they'll keep games close. They'll run the ball. But if Ohio State can keep them behind the chains, and Penn State didn't run the ball that well, and, I don't know how many of these teams Ohio or Nebraska's played this year, how good their run defenses really are. And I really do think after the first few weeks, Ohio State's run defense is actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
So they've gotten better. They've kind of gotten to the point to where we expect Ohio State's defense. I mean, they've really not given up any rushing yards since Oregon, and, of any note. And, so I just don't see where, especially if the offensive line or defensive line, and they've gotten better with this too. I know that this is probably going to be the most stress that they've gotten from a running quarterback in a while. But their defensive line hasn't been as aggressive as they were on running downs earlier in the year, where they're giving up just open holes. Usually the backside guy is staying. They've been doing a lot better job with that. So I think as long as they play Martinez pretty good on that stuff, that they really don't have much to worry about.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm actually, it's kind of weird to say excited about this, but the offensive line, they didn't do their best against Penn State. I mean, that's no secret. And Nebraska does have a good defensive line, but I'm kind of excited to see how they do against, a 3-man front, because I'm pretty sure, Nebraska is still going with that this year. So I think that's just more stuff that, they can learn from. Of course, Tulsa went with a 3-man front, but this is going to be, much different class of athlete, class of football player that you're going to be playing in this game. So I think it's going to be a great learning experience for them down the road.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And especially, let's elephant in the room, everyone wants to see Georgia at the end of the day. Well, they got a freaking grizzly bear as a defensive tackle. So, I don't know how big Nebraska's nose tackle is, but you got to think he's somewhere in the ballpark if he's going to be a, Division I, zero technique nose tackle.
Yeah. Especially if you're playing with a 3-man front, that's usually the biggest prerequisite. You better have a big hoss at the nose, because, that if he's a little guy, then you're pretty much screwed.
Right.
Like, he's going to run you over. You can't be thinking you're going to be out there running with a typical nose guard or 3 technique, thinking that he's going to play nose. I mean, the 3-man defensive lines, those are for all big dudes, and that guy in the middle is usually a mountain. So,
and of course, Georgia actually is a four down front, and they got 2 bears in the inside. So, that's a different beast that hopefully we have that problem at the end of the day, but we got to get there first.
Yeah. All right. So on to but like just to finish up defensively, but I think we'll match up well. It's definitely, and this game is going to be more on our front seven than it's been in a while. This is I mean, there's going to be stretches in this game that as long as our corners are playing good defense and our safeties are playing good techniques and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure Nebraska's got a couple good tight ends, but I don't see how they're going to challenge us to the outside with their receivers. So, like, this is definitely going to be a game for a while that you might think that we have no secondary because they're literally not getting tested at all. So I wonder if they're going to try, maybe if Ohio State will at different points in the game, especially early, if they'll try to sneak in maybe a 4th linebacker. I don't know how much of the depth is there. Maybe a 5th defensive lineman, just get some extra oomph in there. Maybe they'll move one of those defensive ends kind of out, stand them up, and bring in another defensive tackle. Maybe play a little bit like that, and because I mean, I could see that and just go with 3 secondary guys until Martinez start proving that maybe he can throw the ball.
Yeah. And I'm not like you. I'm not too scared of that. I know they got a couple transfers that came in that they can make plays. So I'm not saying that, they have no threats on the outside. They don't do it well enough. It's not something that you can be scared of, because I think I saw earlier, I think they have 3 receivers with over 20 receptions. They have one more game than us. We have 3 receivers with over 30 receptions. And, Garrett Wilson at this point is already over 40 receptions. So, yeah. I mean, and Ruckert has 19. So he's right there almost at 20 also. So, I mean, when you just comparatively, with that extra game, you can see by the numbers, they don't pass the ball as well as what we've gone up against, at least against Jahan Dotson. And they're definitely not as complete as Ohio State with throwing the ball. So it's not something that would scare me enough. And Adrian Martinez, I think he's even their leading rusher. He has over 400 something yards for the year. So again, offensively, I don't think it's enough to really scare me, but you got to, like you said, you got to watch Martinez, watch tight ends, be aggressive with the running backs.
Yeah. That's why I think that's why the front 7, front 8, whatever. That's why, I could maybe see them trying to, maybe sneak another guy in there just to kind of keep another eyeball onto Martinez. Now, it does leave your back guys exposed a little bit if Martinez gets loose. You might not have the numbers back there if he gets an angle and keep going. I mean, the dude's fast as hell. And I mean, he can run, and he's scored long touchdowns but doing it early in the game, if he ends up breaking one, then okay, you get out of that defense. I mean, yeah. But I would really challenge him. I mean, they do have some guys that they've gotten in transfers and stuff like that. I mean, I think they have the talent there. It's just they don't necessarily have the guy that can get him the ball. He's not. I mean, he's no CJ Stroud over there or anything like that. So, excuse me. So I do think that really Nebraska's offense goes to wherever he's going. And I mean, I guess that's kind of an easy thing to say for the quarterback. You can argue that for any quarterback, but it's really true with him that if you don't let him really start beating you in the running game, then I mean, they're kind of toast at that point.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm trying to think where, if anywhere, they scare me. I don't know. Martinez is a good runner. You got to stop him, but I think, Ohio State's definitely up for the task. Just like most games, especially in the Big Ten, that I think if Ohio State gets up 2 scores, they're pretty safe. But of course, I thought that last week too. And, Penn State fought back. Of course, they had a couple calls go their way to help them fight back. But they made it a game. To their credit, they were down more than 10. They were down, more or 10 points. So they were down the 2 scores and they came fighting back. So, you gotta, I truly believe though, if Ohio State gets a point where they go up 10-14 against Nebraska just doesn't have the firepower to claw back into the game.
Yeah, agree. All right. Switching sides of the ball. Our offense against our defense. We've kind of already addressed this. Their defense they're a better defense than we've played a lot this year. This will probably be the 3rd or 4th best defense we've played all year. But so I don't think they're as good as Penn State's defense. But Penn State's defense did a lot of things to put a lot of things on film for some of these defenses now to pay attention to because they were able to. I mean, our offensive line didn't look great in various parts of that game. Henderson was getting challenged very early in the holes, so he couldn't get going a lot of times. I mean, he ended up breaking a few, but I mean, Stroud looked fine. I mean, he looked, he got the ball out to his receivers fine, but they never really challenged, and this could be on day 2 a little bit. They never really challenge Penn State into spots. I mean, there had to be openings in the middle of the field. We've talked about that the other day. So, I mean, there's definitely things that were put on film by Penn State's defense that Nebraska's defense could try to exploit some. And so I'll be interesting to see where that matchup is. But I got to have a feeling, again, if our offensive line does well enough against our defensive line and keeps Stroud upright, it might be a grind early, but again, it just seems like it's one of those games where eventually the dam will break probably.
Yeah. What I was upset with the run game more than anything is it felt very similar to the Oregon game where you were running out of shotgun and everything was coming across the quarterback's body. Like it was so predictable. And just when Stroud's, he doesn't hold the ball at all or, he doesn't keep it. So it's not something that I just don't think that's a good strategy to do handoffs like that. A wide zone, that could be something that would be, we've seen how many guys from Ohio State hit on those wide runs before. Maybe a quick, like when you're in the end zone, a toss to the short side of the field. That's just something that we don't do that, it would hit someone by surprise. But yeah, I mean, that was a little disappointing that they just didn't get more creative in the red zone and creative on those short yardage plays. Cause I mean, Penn State had those sniffed out. And of course, first that Rucker fumble, remember, like I think I said, cause I had called for that against Oregon. I said, do a fake handoff and throw it out to, a releasing tight end to the flat. And then he does it. He goes out and I'm like, see, that's the play I want. And then they ripped it right from him. So I was like, yeah, that makes me look kind of stupid. It's just something creative with that though. Just the short yardage plays, you can't be overly predictable. And especially for a guy like Ryan Day, like he needs to be able to draw something up that the defense isn't just sitting on.
All right. So Trey Henderson, he's a $155 away from going to
1,000.
The 1,000. So is this it?
I mean, he could do it on any given day, Mike. So yeah, I think this could be it. I don't see why he couldn't.
Yeah,
the kid is so explosive. You get him, he could do $155. I mean, I know it took him 20 something handoffs, quick carries last week, but he could get that on 15 carries.
Yeah. I think this would be interesting to see how he does. I know Nebraska plays pretty good against the run. So I think that just like Penn State did, they're going to challenge him. And I think they're probably going to come in with the mindset, kind of similar to Penn State's, like, let's keep him from breaking big ones. And then let's see Stroud kind of beat us through the air. Now, the difference is, does Nebraska's, which I'm not going to question their front, but do they have the secondary similar to Penn State's to be able to really do that? And I think Penn State had obviously a pretty good secondary that they had confidence in doing that with. And they proved themselves, fairly competent for the game that it was what I call. I mean, they gave up yards in different spots, but they shut Ohio State down where they needed to shut Ohio State down. Can Nebraska duplicate that? I'm not really. I mean, obviously they haven't played a passing game like ours. I'm including Oklahoma in that I haven't seen anything Oklahoma throwing the ball this year to say that they're as competent as us throwing the ball. So like, I know that will be the big interesting thing to me. Can Nebraska kind of duplicate the entire defensive game plan as Penn State by, putting your secondary guys out there maybe with one less safety or one less linebacker because you're all up waiting for Henderson to try to, make sure he can't get loose.
No, I don't think so. And I know it was mostly rhetorical, but I don't think they can. I don't think they have the talent. And like you and I have said, if Ohio State, if they challenge more in the pass game, if they were, trying to hit Rucker, Jackson Smith and Jigba, crossing routes, anything in the middle of the field, that could have been a lot more lopsided passing numbers for Ohio State versus Penn State. So, I mean, they could have done more. I think Ryan Day knows that. I think he'll do more this game. So I don't think Nebraska has, what it takes to really shut down the passing game. And not that Penn State even did. I mean, CJ Stroud went over 300 yards.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. This is the only thing is that Penn State didn't really shut Ohio State down. It just came back to where, they shut them down, I guess, where it counted.
In the red zone, right.
Is Ohio State ready now to take that to the next level? I mean, I want to see touchdowns. I mean, a couple field goals are fine, but, especially now that we're getting into our into this stretch, if they come out and they start, you get kind of nervous again, especially where you got some big defenses coming down the stretch here that, if they get way more field goals and they're getting touchdowns, it's kind of scary again. I mean, this game is a lot closer if Jerron Cage doesn't run for 80 something yards last week. So,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is going to be a good, barometer for what the rest of the season is like. I don't think Nebraska can beat them, but if they struggle, like you said, converting on third and shorts, if they're held to a bunch of field goals in the red zone, it doesn't look good. I mean, not great for the rest of the year. Of course, Jim Tressel won a championship doing that stuff, but that isn't today's football. Now, if somehow you get through and you get Georgia at the end of the day, of course, that's scary because of how great their defense is. But if they let you get to the red zone and play that field goal game with you, that's a game that they don't have a very explosive offense that, maybe that would work out against them, but still that's a tough team. So we got a long way before we play them.
Yeah. And
I'm not guaranteeing they're making the title game either, or even the playoffs. I mean, anything could happen.
I think we'll do better this week in the red zone. I think that was probably a little bit of an embarrassment towards Ryan Day too. I mean, he does pride, he's an offensive minded guy. I mean, he has to be prideful of that stuff that, why weren't we able to put any points actually get into the end zone against these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Why was it that difficult? There had been openings, and I'm sure there were openings. I'm sure Ryan Day saw said openings when they did films this week. I'm sure CJ Stroud saw those. So I think they'll be more mindful of that. And, and again, young quarterback, he's going to make, there might have been openings that he just didn't see. And, with experience, you see those a lot easier. So,
well, and don't forget, you had a couple false starts on the goal line. And then you short armed a throw to Olave that was wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's definitely, I mean, they kicked themselves. They shot themselves so many times in the foot. I mean, it's not even I hope the referees are in better position this week. Of course, I mean, if you listen to or follow any of the Nebraska fans that we follow on Twitter, they always seem like the refs are always out to get them. So maybe this will be a lopsided reffing game in our favor this week.
I mean, I like those guys, but hopefully.
Yeah. So anything else you offensively? I mean, I'm assuming our receivers and record are going to have a pretty easy. I mean, fairly easy game. It's just when I say easy, it's not just that easy that I think that Nebraska's bad. It's just there's just not many teams that are geared up to be able to stop 4 different guys like that, and that any one of them could do serious damage to you. It's not even like Jackson Smith. I mean, you throw him. You throw him. He could take over a game because he's so prolific in the middle of the field, and he catches almost everything that's thrown to him. So, I mean, even if you're able to shut down the 2 outside guys, I mean, you're still got to go up against, him and Ruckert in the middle of the field and then Henderson out of the backfield. So, like, I don't know if any of these, it's not that Nebraska is bad. I just don't see them being able to shut this down to the point that it can be shut down. And so I think that Ohio State's going to get their yards. They're going to get their points.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it can always be tricky picking up blitzers coming out of a 3 down front. But as long as, Henderson's picking up the guys all right, and he's not in a position because of misassignments by like Rucker or the lineman that he has to, choose between out of 2 guys who to pick up, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, with our line and pass coverage, I mean, they're monsters. They're huge. And I know Nebraska has a big defensive line, but sometimes it's just really hard to get around those guys and get to CJ Stroud, especially when his receivers are always open.
Yeah. And just to quickly, kind of finish up on the offensive line, I'm expecting a huge game out of them this week.
Well, I think Olave said in his press conference, don't mean to cut you off, but he said with the run game that they took it seriously, or they're taking it personally, what happened against Penn State.
So I just have this feeling that they're going to play out of their mind because, it was kind of where the team sputtered was because of the offensive line. If you think about it, not so much in the past game. They didn't hold blocks long on the running game, and they had so many penalties against them that, they killed so many drives because of that. And that I just think that, it was just a very uncharacteristic game for them. And I'm sure it was beat into their heads pretty hard this week that that was not acceptable how they played. And I'm sure that I think they're going to come out there and really try to make a statement against Nebraska's defense. It's a good defense to make a statement too, because, Nebraska will come out and play them tough. This is not a rollover style defense that Ohio State's going to go up. So if you want to make a point, this is a good defense to make it against, because they're going to be physical right back with you. So,
absolutely. And, people can say at the end of the day, because, if we go out and just stomp them, that is going to be, well, they beat a 3-6 team, but that's, you can look at the stats. You can look at what teams have beaten, what they've, put on Nebraska, what they've beaten them by. If Ohio State goes out and wins by anywhere from, 2 to 4 scores, whatever it may be, that's a really good game.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right. Anything else you want to talk about the game before we move on to some of the Big Ten scores?
No, we'll come back to that in a minute.
All right. So we got, looks like everybody in the conference is playing this weekend. So that's good. Looks like the buys are over. All right. So noon, Illinois at 20, number 20. Nice. We get to say the rankings now of the college football playoff rankings. So number 20, Minnesota. Minnesota's home, 14.5-point favorite. I think this will be. Illinois will give them. Illinois can be tricky. It's a Bielema team, but just what's your thoughts on that?
Minnesota wins. Minnesota does not cover 14.5, though. I think, like you said, it's a Bielema team. They're going to be, both teams are kind of slug it out, in your face, running the ball. I don't think Minnesota is going to win by more than 2 scores. And that could be that just they win by 14, but I don't think they're going to win by more than, 14 points.
Yeah. And also, what they don't show you here, I like that they show the, I don't even think that if you click on the game, they show it. I'm not going to look too hard into it, but, outdoors, Minnesota, beginning of November, this is kind of where things start getting tricky up there. Mm-hmm. So it's not that I think it was the following week or maybe 2 weeks when we played them in 14 up there, and it was 0-degree games. So,
Yep.
I expect that it could be it could be frosty up there. So, perfect for both these teams. They're going to want to run the ball, but I just think it'll be a closer game probably than a lot of people think. So I definitely think um, Minnesota wins, but I don't think they will cover.
Okay.
3:30, Michigan State, number 3 at Purdue. Come on, Sparty, you guys better win this. This kind of feels like a dump game. But they better not dump it. I mean, I'm saying Michigan State, they're going to win. They're only a 3-point favorite, but they're going to cover. I think they're going to win. They're going to cover. Not saying they're going to blow them out. I mean, it could be a touchdown, but I definitely want to see a win out of Sparty here.
Yeah, I mean, they give up more. I mean, they score more points by 12, and they only give up about 3 more points than Purdue. So I think that sounds about right. I think, somewhere within 5 to 8 point range, but Michigan State will cover. Hard at home though, but at least it's not an 8:00 game, right? Or on the road. I mean, it's difficult in Purdue, but at least it's not a night game. And at least it's not ranked number 2. That's the curse against Purdue, is being ranked 2nd in the country.
It's true. All right. Wisconsin, so they're 21. I don't know how the hell they're 21, but they are. They're at Rutgers. They don't have a number with this. I'm assuming Wisconsin favored, but they don't have a number. So I don't know if that's on ESPN or if the lines are not just including this game.
It looks like it's just they didn't add it in. It looks like it's a 13 point.
Okay.
Wisconsin's giving 13.
All right. So, I mean, Wisconsin, Rutgers is tougher than, they've been in years past. I mean, they're 4-4. I mean, they still have they got 4 games here where they could possibly become bowl eligible to win 2 of these. So, kind of makes me a little nervous. I don't think Wisconsin will cover, but I think they'll probably win. I mean, it seems like that they'll probably eke this one out, but I think this game's actually going to probably be pretty good.
Yeah. Over under is 37.5. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how. Let me see. Points per game. So Rutgers scores more. They give up only 4 more. Total yards are about the same. They give up a lot more yards than Wisconsin does. Wisconsin has a good defense. You know what? I'm just to go against the grain. I'm going to say that Wisconsin, they'll cover. They'll win by 14.
Penn State at Maryland. Penn State's a 10-point favorite. 3:30 this game. Again, I mean, this kind of feels like it. I mean, I'm probably wrong on this, but doesn't it feel like that Penn State loses a lot of games after Ohio State? I mean, win or lose, it only seems like that's such a slugfest for them that that I wonder how healthy they are. It seems like they always put so much energy into playing Ohio State, and that game's always so physical. So, it feels like a game that could very easily be a kind of a trap game for Penn State. But I kind of feel like they're going to win and cover on this one. I think that, little Tungalovoa, that they're going to kind of beat him up a little bit. That I think that their defense will be pretty good against him.
Yeah.
The better the defense this year against him, the worse he's been.
Yeah, that defense, they get any pressure, rattle him at all, that game's not going to be close. So I agree with you. Penn State will win by more than 10.
Iowa, number 22. They're 6-2 at Northwestern. They're a 12-point favorite. What do you think?
Iowa wins, but they're not. I don't believe in their offense. And I think Northwestern has a really bad rush defense, but I don't believe in Iowa's offense. So I think this will be closer than 12 points. So I'll give Northwestern against the spread on that one.
Yeah. I wonder, again, Northwestern, it's not like it could be if it's very interesting. I mean, being in the Chicago area, it's an outdoor stadium. I mean, they're not right on the lake, but you know how Lake Michigan like pick up winds and stuff like that. So could be interesting up there. I mean, I think that fits okay for Iowa, but I don't know if they can. I think they'll win, but I don't. Again, I'm kind of with you on that one. That I don't think they'll cover.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Indiana at Michigan night game. Michigan's a 20-point favorite. Indiana's looked so awful this year, and I just think part of me kind of feels like that it's kind of like the feeling of Ohio State that these big boys at the conference are just going to want to make sure they put Indiana kind of in their place.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan wins this one easily. I'll say that they cover that spread.
Yeah, I do too. I think that be interesting though. I mean, this is kind of like, his last hurrah to kind of make this season look halfway decent, even though, I mean, he's not going to have a winning year. I mean, if he would win out in November, he could, have at least a 500 year, but big win against Michigan will at least go a long way to at least maybe get some good feelings back into the program. But at Michigan, they could be overlooking them. I mean, they got a big November in front of them. They got a week before Penn State, but I just think that from what I saw of Indiana 2 weeks ago, that Michigan should fairly handle them, I think. And
Indiana doesn't do well. I don't think they do that great stopping the run. I mean, that's what Michigan does. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not really too concerned for Michigan in that game.
All right, noon, the Buckeyes at Nebraska, 15-point favorite. So let's go through our offense and defensive guys that we're going to be watching for. Who do you think? Who are you going with on offense?
I think Chris Olave will at least tie David Boston's touchdown record this week. I think he's going to be the man. Of course, Jackson Smith and Jigba always in that slot position is dangerous, but I think Olave is, last week he had to find a way to get that touchdown. He did it this week. He is much better than the cornerback he's going up against. We saw it last year against these guys that, he was really going early and often. He dropped the touchdown pass that would have gave Justin Fields a perfect game. So this year, I think Olave is just going to do more of the same. And what has he got to get to? He has to get to 34 to tie Boston for the career. So he is he at 32?
I thought he was. Might be at 31.
Well, he's getting 2 or 3. He's at least tying David Boston this week.
Definitely could see that. I'm going to go with Trey on this one. And I think he's going to get his 155 yards. I think he's going to cross the 1,000-yard rushing plateau this week. I just think that it's going to be an all-game effort. I don't necessarily thinking he's just going to have 10, 20-yard touchdown runs or whatever. I think Nebraska will kind of contain him some early in the game, but he'll get yards, he'll grind yards. And then as the game goes on, I think our offensive line will really start establishing them. I have a feeling Nebraska's defense is going to be out there a lot this week. That's the faith I have in Nebraska's offense, that there's going to be a lot of 3 and outs and stuff that they're going to have to. And by the end of the game, they're not going to want to tackle Trey Henderson anymore, because that offensive line is going to be very brutal with them. So I think he's going to get the 155 plus in this game. I kind of feel that, being a freshman, that Day wasn't trying to wear down his legs too much through the year, but we're in November now, and I think Day's going to let him. I think he's going to take the gloves off of him a little bit now, come stretch, and let's see how well some of these teams do against him. And so that's who I'm going with.
I can absolutely see it.
All right, who's your guy on defense?
I think it's going to be. I think Martinez is going to give you opportunities for turnovers, but I think what's going to be really important is someone off the edge, being able, 1, get to him, but 2, setting the edge. So not to give him those lanes, not to be able to let him run wild on them. And I think it's going to be even though he's done very well this year, it will be the coming out party for Mr. JT Tumuilau. And he is going to be a nightmare for Nebraska this week. I'm going to give him two sacks, and he will have another tackle for loss on top of that. And Adrian Martinez is just going to hate the guy once the game is over.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to stick with defensive line too. I'm going to go Tyreek Smith. Just it's kind of a toss up who I want and not want. And, I went with Harrison in the past. So I'm going to say Smith this week. I think he's I think they're going to really, the defensive line's really been coming along. I think they're going to really, really make Adrian Martinez feel a lot of, he's going to definitely feel this game. He's going to wake up with a lot of bumps and bruises the next morning. And so I expect them to have a pretty good game. And I think he'll have the best. I think at least a sack, possibly two, but he's going to hit him a few times. So,
all right, bonus round. Now, does the game go so far out of hand that big Tyleik Williams gets in there and he gets another sack?
Well, the crazy thing about this is, and I know they're deep as hell defensive tackle, but the game shouldn't have to go so crazy out of hand for him to get in there.
Were you surprised he didn't play more last week?
Yeah, but I think that probably some of the other guys are showing themselves and they're older, and I haven't had any problems with anyone. Antoine Jackson's had a very good game last few games. He's playing very well. Vincent's had some big hits. He's been playing pretty good. Jerron Cage has been in there. What Haskell is. So right now, no, I'm not necessarily thinking too much about it because the other three guys have all played pretty well outside. I'm not including Garrett because he always plays well, but I've been very impressed with both Vincent and Jackson. I think they both have played very well the last few games. They both have given their names called. They're both making tackles, and Cage has looked pretty good too. So is Hamilton. He's been in there a couple times, and I've noticed him. So right now they're doing fine on the depth. That I think that I'm okay with it. That I think he's done enough to deserve to be in that rotation. But there's just a lot of guys there.
Yeah, and keep your head up because a lot of those guys are moving on after the season. So, but I gotta say Antoine Jackson, and I might throw Cage into this as well, but definitely Jackson. He played his best game in a Buckeye uniform against Penn State.
Yeah, and I thought he looked good against Indiana too. He's done pretty good the last few weeks. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. So if all those guys just keep up what they're doing, then their defensive line is. They just have way too much to even think about that you could play with them.
Yeah. And that's something that, again, down the line, if that game ever does happen, that might be something that they get a little ticked off about, that they're going to hear all this stuff about Jordan Davis and, Georgia defensive line. And it's what are we, chop liver? We got quite a few defensive tackles also. None are 330, but, they know how to do their thing.
Yeah. And and just to answer your question, because I didn't really answer it, but I think it will get a little out of hand and he'll get it. So, okay. And he'll get a sack.
I think he gets a sack in this game too.
He's very unblockable at the middle. I don't know how good Nebraska's middle of the line is, but he's, again, all these guys just seem like they're really becoming unblockable from a lot of these different spots. Even Zach Harrison, he's quietly turning into a very, very good season. In the last few weeks, he's been almost purely unblockable at different times. How many times was he in there? It seemed like he was in there against Clifford once they really got playing last week. And
yeah, he started to turn it up. The nice thing about the young guys is you have this depth, because I would think, I think you can see it that maybe your young guys are the most talented on your defensive line, between Sawyer, JT Tumalau, Tyleik Williams, but you got so much depth that you can keep those guys. They're not going to hit a freshman wall, I don't think, because you don't need to overuse them. So hopefully everyone stays healthy, because you got great upperclassmen in front of them too. Don't get me wrong, but it's something that is just, it's very helpful for them that they don't have to, take 40 snaps a game or anything crazy like that.
All right, 15-point favorite. What do you think?
42-20. I don't So give me that national title game, supreme there, the 42-20 score. I think maybe though you go into the fourth quarter, like 28-13 or 28-20, something like that, that you score twice in the fourth quarter, but I do think maybe it's kind of closer than what you would think going into it.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a little closer early, but I think Ohio State's going to pull away from them, probably starting in the mid-second quarter, I think, and then I think they'll be the more dominant team in the second half, and I think that's where Trey is really going to start really racking up yards because they'll start tiring him out. I'm saying 48-14. I think I could see this being a 28-31, 14 game at halftime, maybe 7 at halftime, and then they just, I think Nebraska will play good defense against them early. There's going to be a point in this game where Nebraska's defense is just going to be so overmatched because they're going to be tired. I just don't see Nebraska's offense being able to maintain long drives against them, kind of like how Penn State did.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and that's kind of the biggest thing in that game is Penn State's defense was able to stay kind of refreshed throughout the game because, Penn State's offense did have few long drives on Ohio State. I just have a feeling, I just don't think that's going to happen this week. And I think Ohio State will be just the more dominant and they will just pull away from them in that third quarter.
Yeah. I would just like to see, if you're not getting the pressure right away all the time, linebackers get the appropriate depth and stay in the, the correct lanes when they're defending the pass and not getting themselves lost.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. So, you're doing every week. You get Steel Chambers back in the second half. So, okay. Yeah. I like that score.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want to throw out there before we head on out?
No, I mean, all love to the Go Big Red people. We like Nebraska every other week besides this upcoming week. So
not our fault that the Big Ten has put you guys and us on the schedule 3 years in a row. I mean, we have to fight for a game against Iowa, but Nebraska, they're going to put Nebraska every year on schedule.
I mean, hasn't it been, but we played them in 18. Did we play them in 17 also?
We played them in 18.
Yeah, because they lost only by like a touchdown. Remember that might have been the week after the bye.
I don't know if we played them in 17, but yeah, we've played them at least every year since 18. So I mean, you're only supposed to play the teams on that side 3 times. You're only playing 3 games against the West, but I mean, is Nebraska maybe like a permanent? I think they're finally off the schedule next year, but it seems like they're like a permanent. They're our permanent crossover game.
Well, I know we beat the crap out of them in 2016. I'm wondering, have we played them 6 straight years?
I know we had a couple big years where we really dominated them, and did we really beat them up in 15 and 16 or 16 and 17? Like, I don't know. Like, kind of also feels like after that Iowa lost 17 that we played them. That was, or was that Michigan State that we played the week after? We just torched them after that. It was like,
that was Michigan State. We beat them like 48-3 or something. It was beautiful.
All frustrations out on them. There was like a 3-year stretch where we didn't give up like a point to Nebraska, or a 2-year stretch. So, and that had to been before 18. So
well, I think they got a field goal. I think because 16, I think they might've been like a week or so after Penn State and we beat them like 62-3 or something like that. So, and I think they were a top 10 team. Like, they were one of the ones that propped us back, into those playoffs that year. And it really wasn't, I mean, they were way overrated.
Yeah. So were we that year?
Hey, we're not talking about that.
I wouldn't say way overrated, but we were definitely not deserving of that playoff edge. But
no, I think Penn State.
That's just me being fair.
Penn State deserved that, but that's for another time.
Yeah. All right, let's get on out of here.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience.
Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.